Begin with the roll call, please. Mr. Sayre?
Commissioner Manley,
Here.
Alderperson Linder,
Here.
Commissioner Getz,
Here.
Mayor Hokumer,
Here.
Commissioner Horsfall,
Here.
Commissioner Heinzen,
Here.
and Commissioner Lytle is absent, excused.
Thank you. Next, we have approval of the minutes from the April 8th meeting of the Plan Commission. They were included with the packet. What's your pleasure? What's your pleasure?
Move approval.
We have a motion by Mr. Manley. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Heinzen. Were there any additions or corrections to the minutes of the previous meeting? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion carries. So we are on agenda item 4, which is discussion and possible action regarding site plan review to allow for the construction of a 2,327 square foot expansion of the Verona Veterinary Medical Services Building located at 655 Half Mile Road. Mr. Sayre, would you provide the background, please?
Thank you. So the Verona Vet is requesting site plan approval to allow for a construction of a building addition that would expand their boarding and veterinarian areas. This was a project that we discussed at the April Plan Commission meeting last month. The project would start with phase 1 in 2015 and then would transition in 2016 and 2017 for the phase 2, and the last part of the project would begin in 2018. The addition itself is outlined on the site plan. We have an addition on the west side of the building and also on the east side of it. The site itself is a very challenging site. The current building is pretty much located in the middle of the property, which makes putting additions onto it quite challenging. In addition, there is a significant hill on the north side of the building as well. With that being said, though, the applicant has found a way to kind of squeeze these in here, and it does work from a building setback standpoint and does conform to all the building setback requirements. Parking on the site, there are 2 parking areas planned. There's a small 2-stall parking lot on the east side of the property, and there's also a larger 13-stall parking lot on the west side of the property. By code, the project does require 15 parking spaces. The applicant has provided those 15 spaces. One thing to point out, as we discussed last month, was the applicant is proposing the back-in 60-degree stalls. The purpose behind that is a lot of the clients that come to here have their dogs or animals in the rear of their truck or SUV. It makes it easier from the back end, pop the truck and haul the animal out or get the animal out. So the applicant has requested that. Staff has no concerns with that. That's something the applicant had requested. It's on private property. If it does become an issue, there are modifications that could be made to the site plan to change it back. So we have no concerns with that. Access to the site would be from 9 Mountain Road from the west. It would be one-way coming in, then transitioning going north and exiting on Half Mile Road. Staff has no concerns with this configuration. This configuration will actually reduce the potential for backing onto traffic backing up onto Half Mile Road, so we have no concerns with it. A stormwater plan is not required for this project. The impervious surface being added is under 20,000 square feet. However, the applicant will need to get an erosion control plan submitted to the city engineer for review and approval prior to starting construction. The architecture and building design for the project, similar to what you saw last month, the applicant's proposing stone veneer and composite siding. The existing metal building will remain the same, but in the kind of the bookends of the building will have the new additions onto it and the improvements. Staff has no concerns with the design and the materials. It's high quality materials, and it'll provide a nice look to the existing building, kind of dress it up a little bit as the future hotel is being constructed north of the property. So we have no concerns. So with that, staff recommends the Plan Commission approve the site plan to allow for the construction of a 2,327 square foot building addition to the Verona Veterinary Medical Service Building located at 655 Half Mile Road with the following condition: that 1, prior to the issuance of building permits, the applicant shall submit a revised photometric plan that meets the zoning requirements for approval by the Director of Planning and Development. There was a photometric plan in your packet. Currently doesn't meet the zoning requirements. It's a minor item that we can address after this meeting. So with that, if I'm here to answer any questions you have, and the owner of the facility is also here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Sayre. So we will open it up for questions or comments. And on this agenda item for site plan review, if we were to take action this evening, it is not a recommendation to the Common Council. It's action. We have the authority here at the Plan Commission. Questions or comments? I know we saw this a month ago. Mr. Horsfall?
Just a minor one. A month ago, it was 2004 or 2,401, and now it's a little bit less. Is it, we just chopped off a little bit of the building or something?
Mr. Sayre?
They've been making refinements to the kind of the drawings as it goes on, so it's
Okay.
just as they've been working through it, there's been some minor tweaks to it, and that just a minor revision basically happened, and
Just
there
curious.
wasn't anything of significance, so.
Other questions, comments? Mr. Linder?
Thank you. So is this two separate businesses then, or is it one business? 'Cause
I'm not sure if Ron, do you want to come up to the podium and I guess answer the question?
And again, if you'd please introduce yourself, please.
My name's Ron Schultz. I'm the owner of Verona Veterinary Medical Service and Verona Boarding Service. I'm sorry, what was the question?
Is it two businesses, or is it?
Yes, it's two businesses. Verona Boarding Service, strictly boarding of dogs and cats, and Verona Veterinary Medical Service, small animal and large animal veterinary practice.
Does that affect the parking requirements if?
Mr. Sayre?
No, the parking was based upon the uses in the building, so what we did was we broke it out by square foot. So
Okay.
15 was the overall for both the vet business and the boarding business.
Okay, so then that's why there's separate handicap on both sides then, to accommodate for each business?
Mr. Sayre?
I suppose so. I'm not familiar with the ADA codes of how that actually, how many stalls you have to have per
I
one.
believe because we had two entrances, we had to have two handicap sites.
Okay. All right. The other question I had while you're up here is that, I drove by today and there's a like a utility box in the corner that's not too close to the parking lot or anything, is it? In the corner of Half Mile Road in Nine Mound?
No,
That's far enough.
no, that'll
Okay.
be, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, as long as Ron is here? Okay, other questions or comments or potential motions? Mr. Getz?
Just a comment, having been familiar with that site for a number of years, it is a challenging site with the hill there, and I think it's a nice addition that they're looking to put on and be able to still work within the parameters of the site there, and I think that will complement the corner nicely.
I would agree with Mr. Getz, and having looked at the plans and the photos of the building, I think you've done as well as you could possibly do on that site as far as trying to fit everything in and still being, an effective space. So I applaud you for that. Other questions, comments, potential motions? Mr. Linder?
I'll make a motion to approve the site plan to allow for the construction of a 2,327 square foot building addition to the Verona Veterinary Medical Service building located at 655 Half Mile Road with the following condition: prior to the issuance of building permits, the applicant shall submit a revised photometric plan that meets the zoning ordinance requirements for approval by the Director of Planning and Development.
We have a motion by Mr. Linder. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Heinzen. We now can have discussion on the motion. Any discussion, further questions?
Just a quick one.
Mr. Horsfall?
You mentioned about the stormwater is to be approved by the engineer. We don't need a motion for that, right? We just kind of handle that. Great.
Further questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. You have your approval. We look forward to you working through the process the next, some starting soon, some couple years from now, right?
Yep, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Next, we have agenda item number 5, which is discussion and possible action regarding initial review of a proposed 136-room hotel and banquet facility to be located on lots 16 and 17 of Liberty Business Park at the northwest corner of Liberty Drive and Fortune Drive. Mr. Sayre, if you would provide the background, please.
Thank you. So this is an initial review for a proposed 136-room hotel and a banquet facility located on lots 16 and 17 in Liberty Business Park. If you recall, about a year ago, this was a There was a previous hotel that was planned in this property. This is the kind of the revised plan that is coming forward today. The proposed hotel would be at the corner, as the mayor described. It would include a fitness center, pool, a bar, cafe, and also meeting space. It would be 4 stories tall. The hotel project will require site plan approval, a conditional use permit for the use, and a conditional use permit for the building height. The building height is 65 feet. The code allows up to 45 feet. So in order to exceed the code requirements, they need to get a conditional use permit. The banquet facility will require site plan approval and a conditional use permit for the use. The project will also require a CSM to combine the lots and reconfigure the remaining portions as well too. Site plan in your packet has the setback shown on there for both facilities. It appears that both buildings, the banquet facility and the hotel, meet the required setbacks. Staff has no concerns with setbacks currently. As I stated previously, there will be a necessary height exemption for this hotel since it is 65 feet, and that is the 20 feet above what is allowed by ordinance. We granted this with the previous hotel. I don't have any concerns with this exemption since we granted it once already. One item to note on the kind of the design of the building is that I've encouraged the applicant to try to kind of square up the entrance of the building itself, shift it a little bit kind of to the northeast there, so the entrance lines up with the intersection there. Right now it's a little bit off skew, so we've asked them to take a look at that and see if they can kind of line that up a little better. Parking and access in your packet, I broke it out by detailed by use of each facility. Overall, the code requires between 402 and 435 spaces. The applicant is providing 352 spaces. They're approximately 50 to 83 stalls short of what's required by code. Most likely they'll have to add additional parking in the rear of the property. One item to note from a staff level perspective is I don't support shared parking for this type of use. I guess I'm concerned that if you have an event at the banquet facility and you have a hotel that's booked up for whatever reason, Red Soccer Park, Epic, or whatever's going on, there's a good chance you're going to really push in a lot of parking into the street. I guess I'm just leery on allowing shared parking in this situation just because of the potential parking demands with these types of facilities. So I guess that's my opinion, but I would kind of encourage the Planning Commission to think about that, make some comments to the applicant tonight. Drainage and stormwater plans will be required as the project moves forward, just like with any project. Architecturally, the hotel is very similar to the hotel that was approved last year. The applicant's proposing brick, stone veneer, and ephes. Staff believes the design is appropriate, materials are appropriate. I don't have any concerns with the design. It's like I said, it's very similar to what the Planning Commission approved last year, just smaller. So I have no concerns with the design of the hotel. The banquet facility, the applicant's proposing brick, stone veneer, ephes, and a tile roof. Once again, they're trying to continue the theme that they've established in the commercial areas of the park as Verona, Italy, more of the Italian type look to the buildings as well. And that includes the features of the arches here and some of the pergola and a variety of other features as well. One item to note, I think, as the project goes forward, I would encourage the applicant to bring in material samples and color samples. The red, I think, is probably not as red as is shown on here, but it'd be nice to kind of take a look at that and see what color that really is. And we've talked about that before as well, too. So I would just encourage the applicant as it goes forward to bring those in so we really kind of know what the building colors are going to be. A few staff comments, I think, on the proposal. Sorry, a few staff comments on the proposal. From a hotel perspective, staff doesn't really have any concerns with that proceeding at this time. We had a hotel on the site at one point. This is just a smaller hotel. We'll need to see specific details in the future in the submittal on employees, meeting room capacities, etc. Those details that kind of go into what the operations of it's going to be. But we don't have any concerns with that proceeding at this time. We do have some concerns with the banquet facility right now, as there's a lot of unanswered questions that we have as staff on this project. And the big question that we've been looking for is just the operations of the facility, of what type of events are planned here. Are we looking mostly at weddings? Is it going to be a music venue? Is it going to be, kind of the details of what are the operations? How is this going to be operated? Obviously, those are critical details that we need in order to take a look at the site plan and review it with both planning, engineering, and also police, fire, building inspection as well too. We haven't received those yet. We've gotten kind of some general answers, but we actually need to see, we'd like to see an actual operations plan of what's going to be happening here. You know, is the capacity, is it 430, is it 530? Is that a number the applicant's willing to commit to from a maximum capacity standpoint? Because if that's the seating capacity, what happens if it's a standing room only event? So those are the kind of questions that we just haven't had answers to, and those are the details that we do need in order to kind of take a look at this and provide the good feedback to the applicant. Other items that we've asked for and we really haven't gotten an answer on yet is, when is the extension of Liberty Drive plan? When will that go forward? If we're looking at a bank facility that seats 400 to 500 people, it's a lot of cars, it's a lot of people. It'd be nice to know when Liberty Drive will be extended to Whalen Road, and we'll get that second exit out of this business park as well too. Finally, I think from a long-term standpoint, one of the things that I've kind of questioned, is this the best spot for a banquet facility in this park? I think the reality is, across the street you have the Flex Industrial, Flex Office area, which is zoned industrial. Lands to the north of this as well are zoned industrial. So the reality is, you have a banquet facility that is going to draw a lot of people to Verona. Is putting it next to an industrial area the best spot to be putting it? Is there a better spot you could be putting it? You know, one idea is putting it closer to the intersection of County Highway M and County Highway PD. That is definitely a commercial area. It's been planned for commercial area, and all the lands around there are zoned for commercial. So those are ideas and comments that we've thrown out to the applicant, and I would just kind of throw that to the Planning Commission as well too, as something to consider. Is this really the best spot for this or not? Ultimately, staff does recommend the Planning Commission review the submitted materials and provide feedback to the applicant. Furthermore, the staff does recommend that the banquet facility come back to the Planning Commission for a second initial review. I'd really like to see those details of what the operations of this facility is going to be. I'd like to sit down with the police chief as well. Obviously, facilities like this long-term can create some potential nuisances. If we can address those now, early on, if through site design or anything like that, it'd be nice to be able to do that. We haven't had those yet. So I personally would recommend that this come back again for another initial review. But with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I know the applicants are here tonight as well too, and be happy to answer any questions.
Questions, comments from Planning Commission? Mr. Manley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I first have a comment about parking, and then I have a question about the banquet facility. As it relates to parking, I guess I appreciate, Adam, your comments about wanting to have adequate parking facilities for that weekend where there's a sporting event. It could even be a Badger football home game. It's tough to find a hotel anywhere in the area when there's a Badger football home game. But I wonder if, when we're looking at the number of stalls that are required for this project, if we aren't overestimating that number because of some of the people who might be using the bar / cafe are actually people who are parked already and are staying in the hotel, or people who are using the banquet facility are staying in the hotel, and they're not parking in two places at the same time. I suspect that on this type of a property where you've got two proposed uses that have a synergy with them, as evidenced by a skywalk connecting the two, that you may not actually have quite that high of a demand for parking as you might otherwise be dictated by the code. So that's I guess my 2 cents on parking. As it relates to the banquet facility, I'd be interested in hearing from the applicant, because I think it's a very unique looking building, and the idea of having a large banquet facility I thought was interesting. I wondered if the applicant wanted to explain what was the basis for changing the plan in this fashion and adding that facility to the plan overall, and if you think, what is it about the market in Dane County for banquet facilities that you think would sustain this a facility this large.
Well, first I want to introduce myself. I'm Dean Slaby. I'm president of KSW Construction, and thanks for taking the time to see me again.
Dean, is that microphone on? Is the button lit?
Green light's on.
There
Okay,
you go.
sorry, there you
There
go. Anyway, to answer your question on the hotel, as you know, the hotel shrunk a little bit there, but we have some positives with it that we feel that came in point. One is being the banquet convention center. That's going to be both of those. Two, after my pay scale, the people from the Hyatt Hotel and also the owner of property get together, and we actually increased the rooms on the Hyatt Place by 50%. In mind that we still have the Hyatt House Hotel, which we plan on doing right behind it on the other side, which will probably increase those more too. Banquet facility slash convention center came to us needing 450 to 650. We haven't determined that yet. We're real close. I know, Adam, we've been going back and forth on sizes. We're going to have that laid out by the time we meet next time. We do believe it'll be towards the 500 mark. She can. People sitting.
Capacity for the banquet.
Yep.
Yep.
The demand's there, talking to the owner, and I have the rep here today to answer some questions that you have about the banquet, or the banquet facility itself. One, for the hotel, I just want to make clear, is we are making it bigger. We also cut the timing down on the construction almost by 12 months, so that makes a lot of people happy, turning that around and getting some money brought into the business while we add to the other one. We also feel that it's us and Hyatt Hotel people feel it's a destination and a location, so they're fine with the location just because it's a destination for them. They don't need to be on the corner of retail. And same as the banquet facility and the athletic facility, it's all destinations. So that's kind of how we came up with the location, so everybody's kind of aware of that. And if you want to answer any questions, should be glad to answer any questions about the operations of the facility.
Hello, I'm Kirsten. I'm the event manager at Liliana's. So the reason to kind of go back to what you said about wanting a catering slash convention center in Verona, 3 years ago we did 2 weddings. 2 years ago we did 14, and 3 years ago, opposite, we did 2. 2 years ago we did 14, and last year we did 47 weddings. And this year we're on track to do about 50 weddings again, and that's with no advertising, that kind of stuff. So the wedding market in Dane County is really booming right now. And for the bigger weddings and the convention centers, especially like Epic user groups, those kind of big things, there's really only a few options right now in the Madison and surrounding areas. So that's where we're kind of looking to come in and kind of create another option for that. Because I know, and usually most of them you have to go downtown to do, and parking's a huge issue, so I like that you guys are covering parking, because that's one of our big things too, is the ease of coming out to the suburbs. Is the parking is a lot easier and you don't have to pay for it, all that fun stuff. Mostly we do weddings, that's our biggest revenue. We also do a lot of luncheons. We're hoping, we do a lot of donations too with galas, fundraisers, charity events, those kind of stuff. So that's kind of what we're looking to do, mostly Friday, Saturdays, weddings, during the week, luncheons, conventions, those kind of things, and then Sunday nights, do more of the nonprofit sector, galas, fundraisers, those kind of things. For weddings, usually cutoff is around 11 or 12 at night, so nothing super late, nothing super loud. We're not looking at having like big music concerts or anything there, more low-key kind of weddings, fun stuff like that. What other questions do you have for me?
Any questions? Mr. Heinzen?
Sure, thank you. I'm just curious, is there a ownership relationship between the hotel and the banquet facility, or are they just completely under separate ownership and there's some contractual relationship between the two?
So we would be leasing the banquet facility from David.
Other questions? Mr. Linder?
So why aren't they combined rather than just Skywalk? Maybe Mr. Slaby answer, was it just that, but why aren't they like tight together without, instead of Skywalk, just have the buildings together?
That's a good question.
The Hyatt Hotel has a reputation and a name they like to keep, and they have certain rules about tying things to their facilities. So we decided to do a skywalk across it, so the banquet facility has the opportunity to walk to the hotel, which will open, and the hotel will be catered also by David, Liliana's. On the inside of the meeting rooms, my understanding, talking to David, they don't do anything under 100 people, so the meeting rooms in the Hyatt will be taking care of anything under 100.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Linder.
So just so I, maybe to follow up to Mr. Hines' question, so Hyatt owns will have to own the hotel, and you guys would own the banquet and lease it to Liliana's? Is that,
David Heidi owns Liliana's, which will be renting the banquet facility from David, which we'll be putting up as a lease option to David Ranke owns it to David. He's gonna rent it to Dave Heidi from Liliana's. Does that make sense?
Dave to Dave.
Dave to Dave, yeah, Dave to Dave. So
Okay.
the owner of the property is gonna own the buildings, we're just doing a lease option to Dave Heidi from Liliana's.
gotcha, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Mr. Manley.
Thank you. Do you believe that, in terms of the parking, and I know I totally agree with you, my employer puts on 2 events downtown. One of them is each year. One of them's about 500 people, the other's about 1,000. And part of the huge logistics of that event is shuttling people from a satellite parking lot, which is a mess. And I think being able to have adequate parking is certainly important, but do you believe that as the plan is submitted, it is adequate parking because you've got a lot of dual purposing between people staying at the hotel and people using the banquet facility?
As of right now, I know the banquet facility that's already in town with the gymnasium that has quite a bit of tournaments going on is busy, and I know we're way more parking over there than that is. At the 4 mark, I know we get to get together with Adam, but that number could change to 5 to 550. We haven't got that laid down and occupancy terms. What we do believe, I'm a firm believer, a lot of people staying at the banquet facility that night will also be staying at the hotel. That's our goal, is that they're going to get a room at the weddings and stay there. The weekends, we feel pretty comfortable because Epic is Monday through Friday, Sunday through Friday, or Thursday night, and then the weekends will hopefully be the basketball tournaments and the banquet facilities.
Go ahead, Mr. Linder.
So the uses of the banquet facility is mostly weddings, is that?
Yep, mostly weddings.
Mostly. Sorry, Mr. Slavy. So the location of it here, I know Mr. Sayer was questioning it. Is it just because the Hyatt likes this spot and the other spots are maybe higher uses that you can do? Or to me, I question that too, that have it next to that flex
and
building.
I understand it, and we all been on the road and we saw a hotel on the freeway get off. It's a destination. We always like to keep the front for higher retail, and we'll pay a little extra money for that visibility. The banquet facility, the athletic facilities, I own one of the athletic facilities. It's a destination. You're going there for a reason. You're gonna find it. You're gonna go there. So we feel pretty good about that. The Hyatt has no issues with it. David has no issues with it. From Liliana's, he's fine with it. Okay. We feel pretty comfortable putting it there. And the Hyatt house, or the next hotel we do, will be right behind it, so I think that kind of take that whole corner eventually all up.
And what about to Mr. Sayer's question about the connection to, Wayland Road? Is that what it was?
Well, that's the question we have to deal with the owner and the city on a little bit there. I know there's some things there that they're going back and forth on, when that road gets put in, when things get built and everything goes like that. So I'm assuming when that gets built that we're gonna have to deal with that road.
Okay.
Yeah. We have other things coming in on the other side of Wayland, bigger users that we're gonna bring back though, so we'll have to bring that road in eventually.
Where exactly you talking about the other Hyatt going in or the other hotel?
That's not the one I'm talking about, tying the Wayland Road. There's other users we're working on that
Right.
we'll hopefully have done by this month, that we'll probably bring into the city, that will end up going through that Wayland Road side, so we'd have to tie that lane together eventually.
But what about, you mentioned another hotel, what about, where is that location compared to this?
That would be on the side going towards 18150 or Verona Road, going towards the front.
Okay.
So be
Kinda
to
make
the
that little
west,
corner there.
to the west of
Yep,
this
to the west.
proposed one.
Okay.
Like I said, the other one just got so big and long, and the hallways got too long, and the timing got to be too long for construction. Now we can just turn this one over a lot quicker, and then the banquet facility coming in to us kind of made it a no-brainer to just make it a little smaller, tie that one to it, and do the other one after.
Okay.
Dean, as long as you're there, can you talk a little bit about what you're planning, what the intentions are for the athletic facility? What would that all entail?
We are working with, we own the athletic, well,
Right.
my brother runs the athletic facility. We don't own it down in the Mac Center, or
Yep.
the back now.
Yep.
Obviously that we know where them people are gonna stay. So, but they're gonna stay at the Hyatt Hotel with us, so we'll go from
Okay,
there.
so you aren't talking about an athletic facility at this hotel? Or a small one, maybe?
We're talking to people. We actually got a couple things in thing, but I'm not at liberty to say at this
Right.
point, but hopefully very shortly or soon.
Okay. Mr. Heinzen?
Sure, thank you. Mr. Slaby, if you wouldn't, I'm taking a look at what Adam put up, and I don't know if you can see it from where you are. Nope. What Adam had up a moment ago. There we go. And this gets, I guess, to the question that Mr. Linder asked earlier as well. And I just want to get a sense of, I guess I want to have a better understanding of where the next hotel, should it be built, is going to go. And particularly in connection with the parking that's currently available.
Well, if you look at that drawing there, you can see Fortune Drive, which is not 100% in stone. That would probably go towards that way, towards the west.
But it would be inside of, it.
Well, Fortune Drive would end up probably going around further out.
Right, but it would still be within Fortune. It wouldn't be on the other side of the street.
No, it would still be in that category. We want to keep the hotels together, so they're not one away from the other, and we can make sure that the restaurants get full value of the hotels being in one area.
And is Lot 2 and Lot 3, are those also part of buildable lot for you, or is that under a different ownership?
To the north, right? Lot 1
To the
and 2.
north of the map that you have up right now.
Oh, I think the intention of lot 1 and 2, I think there's gonna be some remnant land left over after the CSM. So they would kind of take whatever land is left to the north and just connect to the remaining lots that are actually kind of north of there already. So that would just be the leftover chunks that would get added on to existing lots.
And how many total there are 352 total parking spots right now. And as I understand it, it could need to be higher under city ordinance. And if another hotel were built on the site, I guess my question is, long distance here, is there even gonna be enough, would there be enough room for additional parking to cover another hotel going on that same spot?
Mr. Sarah?
You mean existing parking? So assuming the banquet's approved and this is approved at 352,
Right.
no, they're gonna need more parking. And there's some flexibility in the code if you wanna look at shared parking. I mean, that's definitely an option that's out there, but no, they would have to have.
More land to put the parking in for that.
Correct, yeah, they would need more spaces, probably at least one stall per room.
Yeah.
Beyond what's on here. So if it's a 100-room hotel, you have 100 more stalls.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions? Mr. Lytle, please.
It could be because I've been watching too many YouTube videos, but the crosswalk between the two buildings, it seems like all of the service is on the west side of the buildings, both for the hotel and the banquet facility. Will there need to be clearance such that delivery trucks could go under that? Or how are you going to prevent trucks from seeing that left off of Liberty and trying to go through there where the crosswalk is?
You want to answer that one, Jerry?
Yeah. I'm Jerry Berkwin with Dementia for Chase Madison. The first floor at all these facilities is a higher floor, or whatever, so we're like at 14, 15 feet in that. So actually, we'll have a minimum of like 12 feet clear underneath that skywalk coming through there, so your delivery trucks and those type of things actually can, if they want to go through there, they can go through there. You know, once they've been there, they're going to be directed to go around to the back side of the building to get to the service parts to loop back to the outside. But we have kept that high enough that if an ambulance or anything else needs to get through there, you can get between those two buildings for emergency needs also.
Okay, so pretty much any kind of traffic you'd imagine servicing a hotel or a banquet facility would have clearance.
Pretty much, yeah. If you can basically drive down the road, get underneath the overpasses on the interstate, you can get underneath our skywalk.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Mr. Horsfall, please.
Kind of related to that, with the CSM, how does that work when you have two properties and a skywalk going in between? How does?
Mr. Sarah?
So the hotel and the banquet facility would be on one lot. So that lot one would be, I don't know if it I don't think it shows up on here, but lot one would be pretty much everything south of this line.
So now I'm confused, because I just heard earlier that there's two owners, one owner of the banquet and Hyatt owns the hotel. So we have one lot, two owners, and,
I'll clarify
Go ahead,
that one
Dan.
more time.
Subletter.
David owns the flag, so he actually owns the hotel and the banquet facility. So he'll run the hotel with the management company, lease the banquet facility to David from Liliana's, which David would own that big lot, which makes it one owner for
okay.
one lot.
Thank you,
Thank
Dan.
you.
Other questions, comments? Just when we talk about parking, and I'll ask Mr. Gunlock, but I just want to make sure on Liberty Drive, we would never allow parking on there, correct?
Correct.
So, you know, I know I'm very familiar with the athletic facility too, and drive past there almost every day. When there are events there, there's a lot of on-street parking on Prairie Heights, and maybe a little different activity there because a lot of sporting events. But, you know, I do see younger kids going between the cars all the time, and I know I always drive very careful when I go through there, but there's a tremendous amount of on-street parking there. Other questions, other comments? Mr. Linder?
Yeah, just one question. Where do you expect the traffic for the hotel to go? Like if you're driving to the hotel, do you expect them to turn left between the banquet, you know, underneath Skywalk, or do you expect them to turn at Fortune Drive, or where do you expect the majority of the traffic for particularly the hotel to go?
When they're coming to the hotel up Liberty, or whatever, they're going to see actually the canopy and the element that actually Adam was trying to say get more focused right on. They're going to see that, so they'll turn actually right onto, was that Fortune? Come to
Do
the
you
left
expect
there.
them to go on
They'll
Fortune?
turn that, then they'll come right up to the canopy, because they'll see that first, so they'll come right up to that area.
Okay.
So going past the hotel, I think is going to be more the banquet facility more than anything else, not really the
Okay.
hotel users.
Reason I'm asking, it's a much bigger intersection at Fortune Drive, so I think that would be a good way to go. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions, comments? Otherwise, this will be coming back before us again. Go ahead, Mr. Lytle.
I'd fully support Adam's suggestion that we get some more details around an operating plan. I'm unclear as to whether a CUP would be required, a separate CUP would be required for the banquet facility. And then also, Bob, I'm assuming Adam's reflecting your thoughts on the parking as well to understand whether there's allowance for shared or not. Just those
Mr.
2
Gunlock?
points.
Yeah, both these facilities, I mean, I can see the hotel full with another event going on in the city, and now you have a wedding, and the banquet facility is full. You have to look at how many employees are in each one of these facilities also, and make sure that you got enough parking for the seats in the banquet facility, at least 136 parking stalls for the hotel, plus all the employees that are gonna be here. And I would say between the two facilities, there's probably gonna be 50 employees there at any one time, so, I mean, that's all gonna be taken into account.
Go ahead, Mr. Lytle.
I guess just clarification from Adam, or whether we know yet whether the banquet facility would require a separate CUP.
Mr. Sarah?
It will. It's indoor commercial entertainment, so there's no question about that. And I think part of my comments with the parking especially is with the understanding of if there's a capacity, you know, my opinion is we probably should cap that in the conditional use permit itself, because that's what's going to drive the parking. So I mean, if there's a part of my concern is if we can cap that capacity at whatever the number may be and agree upon whatever the parking may be, that resolves a lot of my parking issues and avoids the event that for some reason 10 years from now you're gone and it's all different people here and you have an event out there and you've got, say, 1,300 people standing room only. Yeah, that's I mean, that I think is the key to kind of having this in the permit, and, you know, long term it would protect the city. So I think there's ways we can handle the parking, but kind of getting those details of making sure we have it locked down, that CUP is going to be the key.
Yeah, so both, as Adam was saying, in terms of helping the fire department, the police department with their review, and as part of a second initial review for our benefit. That being said, any chance to enjoy Liliana's without going all the way to Fitchburg, I'm all for, so.
Other questions or comments? I think the other point that we haven't talked about, and that's, there's a lot of land out here, and other future uses of the property will make a difference on parking as well, so. Looking forward to seeing more details in the future and have it come back to us. Thank you. So with that, we are on agenda item number 6, Planning Department announcements. Mr. Sayre?
The only announcement I have is on May 18th, I believe at 6 p.m. We have a meeting here at the council chambers to discuss streetscaping in the downtown. The Plan Commission, you're more than welcome to attend. You're not required, but if you would like to stop in, take a look at some of the designs that we have for the downtown streetscaping, you're more than welcome to stop in and say hi. We also have a CDA meeting that night, so once again, you don't have to attend, but it's right after the streetscaping meeting, so you're more than happy to attend that as well too. So that's May 18th at, I think the CDA is at 7.
Yeah,
Or-
I think,
Go ahead, Mr. Burns.
I think the plan is to do the open house on the downtown streetscaping from 6 to 7 p.m. with a Community Development Authority meeting starting at 7 p.m.
Mr. Sayre, I was wondering if there was one other announcement you want to make, since something big in your family that occurred since the last meeting?
Sure, my son was born on the 19th, so we're very excited. Wife is doing well, my son is doing well, so everyone's happy, and my wife's happy to be done, so.
Congratulations.
And she'll be happy I said that at a meeting too, so.
Any other announcements? Otherwise, a motion to adjourn would be in order. We have a motion by Mr. Lytle. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Getz. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.